Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is the Oracle Autonomous Database Learning Lounge. I am Marco Senasibia, part of the product management team for Autonomous Database. And today we're going to have a very interesting session. We're going to be actually talking about the Autonomous Database on the new Oracle Database Release 23 AI and all the different things that actually it brings. So for that, we're bringing in Keith Laker, Marty Gubar, Michelle Malcher. So the three people that are working with me on the Autonomous Database team. And we're going to be talking about different components. We're going to start talking about the enhanced AI, GenAI, RAG capabilities, vector search, right? And Marty's going to be showing that. We're going to be talking about the JSON-Relational Duality capabilities as well. And then we're going to be talking about the new SQL Firewall access and all this new security components, right? Part of the security capabilities that we have in addition to what we had before. And then I'm going to be touching on some of the property graph capabilities and then enhanced machine learning algorithms. And finally, an ONNX Runtime new capability that runs third-party models in database, okay? For the call today, we want you guys to ask your questions through Q&A. So please go into Q&A and ask anything you will like there. And we're going to be looking at the questions and answering that to you, okay? We're going to distribute some links to you, so I'm going to be using chat for that, okay? And then anytime if you want to look at the recordings at the previous sessions and all that, you're going to be seeing that on that link, okay? All right, so these are the links that I'm going to distribute right now to you guys. So take a look at chat. You're going to see these links there. And one of these things is talking to you guys, you know, having a way for you guys to ask your questions. So in Developer Slack, so we have a Slack workspace, right? The Oracle Developers Slack workspace. So you can actually go in, sign up with your email and just ask your questions there, okay? So we're going to be reading your questions and answering you there, all right? So to start the session up, we're going to actually have Keith Laker. He's going to be showing you guys, you know, more than 100 different features, right, that the Autonomous Database has released in 2024. And he's going to show you guys a nice graph with all of these different features. And then he's going to talk about what were the specific focus that we had and different goals. And also, he's going to be giving you guys a link so that you can actually have an idea of, you know, the Autonomous Database year-end review, so where you can actually read more about all of those features, okay? And we also have many of those features as well highlighted, right, in our Learning Lounge sessions. So make sure to, you know, take a look at the sessions and the recordings as well, right, on those features as well. All right, so thank you very much, Keith, and please take it away.
Marcus's sessions covers pretty much all of these topics as well. So it's well worth joining the Learning Lounge because you find out about new features. And with the Learning Lounge, you get to do the deep dive into a lot of these features as well, because there's a lot of functionality behind quite a few of these features, a lot of good use cases. So 2024, we went through 120 new features that got incrementally added throughout the year. And that's on serverless. And of course, for those of you that are looking at dedicated, working on dedicated today, that platform is progressing really fast as well. They pushed out over 60 new features on that side as well. Trying to sort of get in and focus on 120 features is quite hard. So we typically group these things into 3 basic bins. So we're looking at things like data management. Security's a huge hot topic in 2024. There were a couple of very public situations, let's leave it at that, around security, with various companies finding their data publicly available. Not on Oracle, I hasten to add, but on other platforms with other vendors. So zero trust-based security that we baked into not only the cloud platform, OCI, but also into autonomous database. And all of that gets pushed out. You know, if we're running autonomous database on Azure, on Google, etc., that zero trust process that's baked into the database is there. With 23 AI, we've added a whole load of other additional security features to really make this completely solid. And Michelle's going to go through a lot of those. Marty's going to do some demos that build on top of all of the data management features that we put in that just make it simpler to do basic tasks. One good example of this is with early patching, being able to take your workload from one environment, pick it up, move it to a clone, and run it very quickly, very easily with real application testing. We kind of automated that whole process. Very, very powerful. And Marty's going to go through a lot of other data management features that we've added after this through 23 AI, along with doing a huge amount of work to make application development simpler, faster, and much, much smarter. And again, Marty's going to look at some of that on 23 AI. Yes, so all of those 120 features, I sort of condensed it all down to this little PDF that you can download that will walk you through. It will make use of demos that Marty's built, demos that Michelle's built, all the content that Marcos puts together as well, and linked it all in, put it up against all the features, and you can go off and explore everything that we kind of released in 2024, as well as sort of dropping in some of the new 23 AI features that Michelle and Marty are now going to cover. So that's free to download. That link, the QR code there, will get you to it. So these are the building blocks, if you like, for what you're about to now experience with Marty and Michelle. So back to you, Marcos.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Keith. So Marty, now it's your turn if you want to share your screen, if you prefer to drive, since you're going to do a demo, right?
Yes, sir. Hello, everybody. I have a lot to show today, and I'm going to start with AI. And, we have a capability in Autonomous Database called Select AI, which takes advantage of all these great capabilities that are in 23 AI, like vectors, and vector search, and whatnot. So let's start. And frankly, I'm going to really just jump right into the demo. What does Select AI do? Right? So Select AI is just part of Autonomous, and you can actually now use Select AI outside of Autonomous Database as well. Right? So if you have 23.7 of the database, you can use Select AI there too. And what it's going to let you do is query using natural language, both structured and unstructured data. So data that's in tables, as well as data that's coming from knowledge bases. And you just use natural language to do that. So let's just jump right in, right, and see how this is done. Now, what I'm going to show you is a sample application that you can download for free. And I tell you what, I'll put the link to the app. It's in GitHub, and actually so we have an Oracle Autonomous Database samples GitHub repo, and here you'll see the Apex app that you can download, and I'll make that available to you. It's also part of our Live Labs. So when you use the Chat with Your Data Live Labs, where you learn how to use Select AI, you get this application as well. Now, many of you have seen this before, but one of the things that we just added is actually kind of two things. One is the ability to query both structured and unstructured data, but the also is the ability to search across multiple subject areas at the same time, right? So we have what's called our AI settings, and within our AI settings, we have different domains: HR data, movie stream analytics. So we're a movie stream. Our company is a movie stream service. We have a support site, right? And that support site has playback issues and network issues. This support site's used by support engineers to help answer questions. So with this app, you're able to query across all of them. And frankly, we use AI just to figure out when you're asking a question, which is the right subject area to get the answer from, right? So what are my total streams by genre? That's going to go to the movie stream analytics subject area to get its answer, right? And so here's my streams by genre. I didn't need to know where the data resided. I'm using Select AI, which lets me use my my language or your language, which may be English or not, to get these answers. What are my total salaries by department? This is going to hit a different subject area. This is going to hit the HR subject area. And then I may have a question. So here's my total salaries by department, or I can't hear anything. What's wrong with my streaming? So now this is going to actually hit the knowledge base here, right? To say, and this was vectorized, and we're using AI vector search to get our answers. And if you're experiencing no sound while streaming, here are a few potential issues to check. And you can go back to, and this is actually coming from Google Cloud, right? Because this is where our website is hosted, right? And here's where you're actually going to find, this is where the information that's supporting that question is found, right? So really simple to query across multiple subject areas using, again, structured data or against documents that are in your document store, right? So, this demonstration we put on YouTube. If you want to capture this, or Marcos, we could also dump this in the chat, and you can see as we're walking, you can see for yourself how you can walk through this and how it works. But what is going on under the covers, right? And under the covers, basically each of those profiles, each of those subject areas that we were looking at are represented by an AI profile, okay? So an AI profile is really just a lightweight metadata object that's in your database that's going to capture different types of information, right? So a subject area like finance will say, hey, these are the tables that you want to have participate. These are target tables you want to have participate in natural language queries. You could have an entire schema. You could have select tables within that schema. You decide. It's completely flexible. Now that what's nice is that you're querying Oracle database tables and views. They may be pointing to data that's in other autonomous databases or on Azure SQL or on object source. It doesn't matter, right? You can query across all these different data stores because Autonomous has the ability to reach out to all these different data stores. Now, when we looked at that support site, we actually created what's called a vector index. We vectorized that. So we went in and we had a process where we created a pipeline to capture that information, create these vectors, and then support natural language. So a profile can point to a series of tables. It can point to a vector. You decide how you want to deploy it based on your business needs. Now, really, really, really important, Keith was talking about this, is that security always engages. If I don't have access to HR data, I'm not going to see HR data. Finance, you will only see the data that you're supposed to see. Oracle's security policies always engage. The other thing is you're not tied to any specific LLM or large language model. And this is really, really important. Autonomous Database has a pluggable support for large language models. If I'm running Oracle database at Google, I'm likely going to be using Gemini. If I'm running Oracle database at Azure, probably using Azure OpenAI, and on OCI, good chance I'll be using OCI Generative AI, right? So it's pluggable. You use the right model based on your business requirements, okay? And also they have different strengths and weaknesses. So that's what's kind of important. Now, the results from these models, and this is where AI vector search comes in, right? They're incredible, right? LLMs are absolutely amazing in terms of their ability to generate creative content, but they have challenges too, right? They don't know about your data, your company's data, and they're frozen in time, right? And it could be at different points in time, right? It might be a year ago, 2 years ago. Regardless, it doesn't have the information that's taking place right now. It does that, like your database might have. It also doesn't know anything about your data in your organization. And this is where, Select AI running queries on top of your data, it's literally generating SQL to get information. But AI vector search is another way of saying, hey, you have a knowledge base like that support site, and we're going to enable you to do a similarity search against your data and say, hey, which support tickets or which support information is going to be most relevant to the question that I just asked, and grab those chunks of data and then use that to augment your search and get information that's private to your business. Now, this could be structured, unstructured data like we just looked at. It could be images. It could be all sorts of information that you're going to be doing as part of AI vector search. So this is an incredible capability that's in 23 AI. It's really, really great. You don't need to go to a separate vector store, a vector database to take advantage of this. An autonomous database is going to simplify the creation, and Select AI is going to simplify the creation and the managing of these vector indexes from that knowledge base. So if I have my support site, what we do is you create a pipeline with a single API call that's going to, one, create your tables containing the vector indexes, and two, it's going to populate those vector indexes from those sources. And as you add new documents to that knowledge base, that pipeline is going to kick in again, and it's going to update the vector index, right? So that vector index is always going to be up to date. Now that I have these vectors and I say, hey, I'm going to ask a question called, my Roku is stuck on the opening scene. What should I do? What's going on? Well, the user's asking a question. That question's actually encoded, and we do a similarity search. What's the information within that vector, in that store, that can help answer this question because the model doesn't know about it? So it's going to come back with a few rows, records, with that information that can help the model understand that private data. And that's shipped to the model. OCI, GenAI, Gemini, whatever you're using. And now the model has that private information. It knows how to answer that question, and it produces the result. As the user asking the question, all I have to do is we've overridden the select statement in Oracle to say, select AI narrate. My Roku is stuck on the opening scene of my movie, and it does everything for you. It comes up with this result. It's doing this entire process. Let's take a look at that. Okay, and let's start creating some AI profiles. And I'm going to start by saying, hey, I have some top secret information in my top secret schema. Right, and right now I'm in, so what we're going to do is we're going to create an AI profile that's going to be used for natural language to SQL. And I'm going to create a new profile. Like I said, you can create as many as you need, called top secret. And here's its description. And this description is going to be important for when we ask our question, let's say in the chat app, and we want to say which domain should we query against. We use AI to look at those descriptions to find out that information. So the other key things are, well, these are the tables that we're going to be used. These are the target tables. In this case, I'm saying all of the tables in the top secret schema, but you can put the individual tables here as well. And what's the provider? In this case, it's OCI. That's it. I created this little metadata object, right? This lightweight metadata object that now allows me to ask natural language questions. So I set my profile, and now I ask my question. My top secret data has patent information. Select AI, list all of our patents, and we have two. The combination dog and toy dog and vacuum cleaner and the magic carpet. And if I want to show the SQL, I use select AI show SQL to see this is actually what it's doing under the covers, right? So we've overridden the select statement. We've extended the select statement with this new AI keyword that allows me to ask natural language questions of my data. So any tool that can speak SQL can now be a natural language query tool. Now, the second thing is, well, I actually want to create a new knowledge base for ADB. I have content that describes autonomous database and its value proposition, right? And in this case, before I said, I'm going to point to a schema, instead this time I'm going to be creating a vector, right? An ADB topics vector. So that's for this AI profile, for this subject area or domain, it's going to be pointing to this vector. And this vector is going to be coming from, now we've created the AI profile, now we got to create the vector. So there's a new API called create vector index, and I'll run that. And what that's doing is it's saying, look, I have information in my object store. What I have in my object store is my maybe people can't see this. I have my autonomous database presentation library. And this is our PM presentation. You can have 50 documents in here, 100 documents, whatever it is. Like our website's got a lot more, but I loaded one document in here. And so I have my ADB presentation library. Awesome. What's happening is this pipeline was created. So the source for this vector index is that directory. Here's the vector that's being created. That's all I have to do, one API call. A pipeline was created. Here's the pipeline that's going to run. It's called the ADB topics vector pipeline. And you can see the status of it there. But at this point, you can now simply just start asking questions using natural language. Okay, I'll set my profile here. And here we could say, what are the top value propositions for autonomous database? Right, so this question is coming from our ADB presentation library. Select AI narrate, what are our top 5 value propositions for autonomous database? It's doing this whole process of RAG, right, to answer this question. Best price performance, most cost effective, simplest for operations, etc. Now, when I go back into my app here and I say, we have a ton of databases. How can I save money with autonomous database and consolidate those databases? Oh, it's not going to come back with anything yet because I didn't add that topic to my AI profile. So I have my AI settings and I add ADB topics here. And now that's a new subject area, right, that it can search. Sorry about that. And I'll just ask that question again. We have a ton of databases. How can I save money with autonomous database? By consolidating. Now I'll ask that question again because we've added that knowledge base to the chat app. Well, Autonomous Database has this feature called Elastic Pools, which enables you to consolidate multiple databases. You can save up to 73%. And you can add, you just save tons of money. We have this family plan where you can consolidate and take advantage of all this compute and save with Autonomous Database. So this is, using RAG and we did this in minutes, folks, right? Just in minutes, you're able to set up a new knowledge base, expose it through your phone and natural language. Really, really easy. All right, so next, let's get into JSON, right? We have a ton of new capabilities in 23 AI around JSON. JSON collection tables, JSON data types, support for JSON schemas, incredible performance. So we're going to have probably in 3 weeks a drill down on this whole JSON topic with Julian, who's brilliant, and it's going to be a great session. So I really hope that everybody joins us. That's going to be in March. So there's a ton to dive into here. I'm going to dive into one of the key areas that was added, which is really groundbreaking. It's called JSON duality views. And the beauty of JSON duality views is you're able to take, when you're building your applications, you get to take advantage of the power of working with a JSON store, while at the same time leveraging the relational store, right? For doing analytics, for running any type of relational type of processing. It's combined. So what's really going on under the covers here with JSON duality views is the data in this case, as opposed to being stored as a JSON collection, which you can do, with a JSON duality view, the data is actually stored as tables, right? And so you get all, it's just block, plain old tables like you have an Oracle database, but then you create a view, a duality view on top of it. Now you can access and update those tables using a JSON store, right? Using JSON APIs. The API that we're going to go through today is MongoDB, right? So MongoDB is going to work on top of JSON collections, but it's also going to work on top of these duality views. Because Mongo doesn't have a concept of tables. It works with JSON documents, right? So you're going to use Mongo like you always use Mongo, right? The MongoDB API. But in this case, you're going to be able to take advantage of having this data captured in an Oracle database. All of it, high availability, the SQL access, the AI, all available to you. So here I'm in Mongo's Compass, right? And I have a movie collection. This collection is actually on top of just the JSON, a JSON collection table. So this is just basic JSON documents stored in, not just, but these are JSON documents stored in the database being accessed through Mongo as if it were a Mongo store. I just have a connection to our movie stream database. And now I access that data. If I just want to see the movie Big, I'll search for Big using its API, and here's Big. It's, it's won a bunch of awards like Best Actor. I love Big. It was starring Tom Hanks and Elizabeth Perkins. If I want to see, hey, what are their Academy Award winners are there since 1990, right? I'm going to query the document store as I would any other JSON document, like I would Mongo, a Mongo database, right? And so, some of these Silence of the Lambs freaks me out. But Forrest Gump, going back to Big and Tom Hanks, here you can see all of the actors and whatnot here. Now, I also exposed a watch party, a duality view. At this point, I don't have any documents in it. So I'm going to go back into Visual Studio Code. And in Visual Studio Code, we have what's called a duality view defined, right? And a duality view, in this case, I created one called Watch Party DV. That's what we just saw in Mongo. And it's comprised of multiple tables. I have a watch party table. So I watch parties with a bunch of we watch movies with a bunch of other people. So here's my watch party. It has a watch party. These are the members of that watch party. So we have a join with a foreign key. And then we have customers. Right here are the customers. The watch party members are customers of MovieStream, and here are their details. So this is the relational design of how they connect using foreign keys. And here is the duality view. And simply it's a view on top of that relational store that is going to say, yes, has the watch party. I can do insert updates and deletes on it. It's connected to watch party members. And within those members, I have my customers. So now when I go back to Mongo and I say, well, I'm going to import some data. I'm using the Mongo APIs to add data to my collection, right? So this is my collection. In this case, it's actually updating the tables under the covers, right? So here's all of my watch party. Here's the members of the watch party, the customer, Sasha, Shannon. I can go in here and update Spider-Man to MG Spider-Man. That's great. But you know what? Let's say I try to update a customer ID, for example, Shannon to 999999999, right? There's a foreign key defined here. And so when I update that one, it's going to say, sorry, you can't actually do that, right? Because there is a conflict, right? It's actually respecting relational integrity. So now when I go back into Visual Studio Code, remember I updated this name. If I go back, and I put MG so I could find it. If I go back into here and run my queries against my source, let's select from watch party where the name is like MG. Here you can see the updated document that we just had. And by the way, now when I go back to my my app here and I say, what are the most popular movies that people watch in watch parties? I can do natural language to SQL on top of this, and it's going to understand that as well, right? So I'm doing analytics over data that was, updated using Mongo and accessing it through our analytics as well. And this is the value of bringing this whole ecosystem together. That's what I got, Marcos. So a lot to cover, and I will pass it on now to others.
Thank you, Marty. All right, so we've been having a lot of Q&A, Marty. There's a lot of questions still to work on. So really appreciate it. Again, let's talk to Michelle about security. So you want to start sharing your screen?
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So the great news is both Keith and Marty have already mentioned security and how important it is. So hopefully you're picking up on the fact that this is not built onto the database, right? This has been part of the database, and Autonomous has some great security features that are built right into it, ready to use. So 23AI actually provided us with an in-database SQL Firewall, and I'll walk through a quick demonstration of that. But what this is really helping us for is those SQL injections, or preventing users from coming outside of the normal application. And it's built into the database, so you can't circumvent it. It's not like an appliance or something else, and it's available with Autonomous Database. We also have a couple other new features. Some may be very excited about just because it makes it easier to control grants and privileges on the data. All that data we were talking about, right? Using the natural language against our tables. We have those role-based access and ways to access that data and get to it. And we can leverage these new features with a read-only user or schema privileges to use for our permissions that we have for all the different features that we were just talking about, right? If it's we have the read-only user that you can go out and grant those permissions on different schemas. And if you have a highly privileged user and you alter that user to read-only, then that is going to override those permissions. So maybe there's something you have to go out and check in production. You can go and change your user to a read-only user and know that that is also auditable, and you can get those permissions in place. Developer role, you want to create JSON duality views. You want to do things with graph that we're going to talk about. We have a developer role that will allow you to do that without having to worry about all those individual permissions. So it gives you about 24 different roles and privileges to make it easier for the developers to start working with these new features. And the schema level privilege where I can grant at table or for select, I can grant execute. And as new objects come in, you do not have to worry about those grants on those new objects. All right, let's talk SQL Firewall, because this is part of available for you to enable policies, whether you block or monitor those policies in Autonomous Database. It's really going to help prevent that SQL injections. And I like to use it for IP addresses outside of my regular app or different users that are coming in. So you can leverage this in a way on your databases to use that. It gives you a nice dashboard where you can see all your different targets. It's not one by one. You enable it on a database, and then you can see the reports for all your databases that you have. So for example, I might gather the information about the SQL that is run by a particular user or a particular application, and then I can restrict what that user is allowed to select. So if I'm worried about someone downloading data, those select stars, and giving back all the data, I can actually mitigate that risk with SQL Firewall. Another way to do this is also by queries. Like if I want to make sure that they're not injecting something in the where clause to provide all the data back, that they're only getting the access that they have. So this example talks about accessing through the application, an HR app, and you're able to see employees, you're able to search by their ID, and it pulls that information back. That is a SQL statement that is allowed to go through. And then if I have that SQL injection where I change that where clause to basically give me back all the rows, that is blocked by the SQL Firewall that's part of the database. And you can't get around that. So it's preventing those SQL injections, which are high on the list of the OWASP and other benchmarks that you have. So that's built in with that. And to entrust the path of using the right IP addresses, making sure we have the right someone that doesn't steal credentials and coming in from outside. This also allows you to make sure that the tools that you might be using against a production database are also blocked, right? You have different options on how you're looking at it. Again, our HR app, those go through. I'm able to select, that makes sense. The application comes through. And then if I go through my SQL developer tools or SQL Plus, and I'm trying to get access to data through the back end, it's actually going to block that because it sees that client coming through and can block that access to the database. So these are really easy ways to work with SQL Firewall. It's built into the database. You can turn on, collect the SQL. You're already doing that for your SQL plans. And so you can create those connections. You review and modify that. You can actually just do it by reporting. And then eventually turn it on by blocking those connections. And of course, we're talking about also users that are coming from outside or trying to circumvent the application to get access to the database. That helps us do that. And we have all those ways of monitoring that and getting reports on it. So this is enabled through DataSafe, which again is an excellent tool that for Autonomous that allows you to do several different security aspects for that. Probably a discussion for another time because I know we have more content today, but it allows you to go through security assessments, user assessments, audit activity, enabling the SQL Firewall and seeing those violations. And there's also some sensitive data discovery and masking. So I'm going to actually switch over here and show you quickly the DataSafe dashboard. Now, this is actually looking at a couple of autonomous databases that we've built in Azure. So you would see your whole list of databases that I can see as a target database to get a overall security posture of my autonomous databases. And I can look at that. I can do a security assessment, user assessment, what we just talked about. But let's take a quick look at the SQL Firewall. And the good news is I didn't have any violations in the last week, so I'm not scrambling around to figure out what happened here. But I can go in and also start to create policies, and it makes it easy to disable and collect that information. I have different policies based on different users that might be coming in or different things that I'm trying to prevent from happening against my database. So you can actually see these different policies that you have. You can create that collection of SQL that's coming through. I wanted to go to firewall policies. So we can look at, I have this firewall policy set up by IP address. So if Evil Rich tries to come in from a different server, different application, he's going to be blocked by that IP address. So a lot of great security features built in, even being able to use in all those features that we just finished talking about, and being able to leverage that for our Select AI, JSON Duality, and machine learning, Marcus, which I'm sure you're going to talk about next.
Excellent. That's perfect. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Michelle. All right. So what I'm going to be talking about, and I'm going to be quick, is a few topics, right, that are newer on the machine learning side, mostly. So graph RAG is one topic that it was very interesting because you saw Marty talking about RAG, right, and Select AI using RAG, and those are important capabilities, right? So you are trying to avoid hallucinations, you're sending and looking at knowledge base, right, and sending out information to the LLM so that it knows, you know, better, right, what are you asking about and where are the answers, right, related to that. Now, what GraphRag is doing is instead of just retrieving the context from, you know, chunks of text, it's actually looking at the relationship between the components there, right, in a graph. So there's a lot of interesting aspects here. We had a session in November by Melly. She gave all the details on this, but I'm going to just show you guys real quick some of these possibilities, right? So imagine you are trying to improve that agent, response, right? But we're looking at a book, right? So if you think about a Sherlock Holmes story, The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle, right? And in that story, right, what happens is we as humans, we can read a story, and as Sherlock Holmes go, right, the answer is always at the last page, right, where you see who was the guy that actually did it, right? But the problem is throughout the text, you have different chunks. And if you use just regular RAG, right, a normal RAG, you're going to just get the book, slice it in chunks, right, create the embeddings. And now when you're asking who stole the jewel, the vector search is going to find wherever it is closest to, right, whatever person is closest to the jewel, and is going to give you answers that might not be right, right? So instead of looking at things like the normal, process, right? Like that is something like that, which is going to answer that was told me by John Horner, right? Because that guy was closest to the carbuncle, right? In the story, the graph is actually going to find the relationships between those things, and then it's going to find that there is a relationship between a different guy, right, and the hotel, and a different guy, and then people related to that jewel, right? So that's basically it. In essence, it will allow you to do these enriching of that process, right? So I'm not going to give you, again, too many details here. We have a lot of interesting topics that are a part of the research on that. And there is a session, if you guys want to go and check it out, on our main site on the Learning Lounge. There is this session recorded in November 21st from Melly, which is the entire hour talking about it. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys pay attention to this, because these are also these, the topics that are surging right up, showing up in terms of machine learning, advanced graph capabilities, and things like that. All right. There were enhancements to 23 AI on in-database machine learning algorithms. So we added a few things here that are specific to the algorithms themselves, right? Including for XGBoost survival analysis capabilities and other things that are now available on the latest, release of 23, right? and time series forecasting as well, so time series regression. So there are lots of different new capabilities as well for the normal machine learning algorithms that you guys need to run and multiple, right? And run those things in high and large databases, right? And there's another interesting topic, which is the synthetic data generation. This helps normally, right? LLMs gather more data and do some more realistic tests, right? Because maybe you don't have all that data, or maybe you're trying to, look at a database that has a lot of private information that you are not supposed to look into, but you want to make sure that your application works, right? So you can do a lot of great things here. And the autonomous database now has this metadata clone, right? So instead of getting a clone of your entire autonomous database, you can actually take it and do a metadata clone. So you have no data, but you have all the columns, right? And all the metadata of the tables, right? From production, for example. And it's super simple now. You can actually get data generated for those tables, right? Synthetically, right? From a DBMS Cloud AI, right? So something as simple as that, you can just say, create, the users, right? So I want to create 5 records of people's names, and then it will actually work with the LLM and create all of that for you. Or you can, of course, get more complex. I want a movie ID, a title, a release date, or genre, and all of these things. And it will know how to connect all of these things with the keys exactly the way you need them, right? So that's basically the idea with this is you have your autonomous database in production, you create a metadata clone on it, and now you can have a synthetic data created for that. So you can do bulk inserts and create new data, and now you have the synthetic data to work on. And it's actually very good data, right? That you can actually play with and create and work on your applications, all right? Now, another thing that might have been overlooked is the ONNX capabilities, right? So in the Database 23 release now, you can actually take an ONNX in database third-party model for embedding and actually use it for add it directly in the database, so it becomes an in-database model object, okay? So there are new features. That's basically what these transformer is doing. So you can actually specify your embedding model. When you specify your embedding model, you can actually tell it it's a database, and then you give it a name. It supports different AI providers, but also the Hugging Face models, right, which are very common nowadays. So there is a blog about how to set this up because ONNX is the open neural network exchange format, right? But the models on Hugging Face are not necessarily in that format, right? But we have a tool in Oracle Machine Learning for Python that actually can convert that into the proper ONNX format, and that Hugging Face model can be imported into the autonomous database. You're looking at it and you're querying it with select statements, all right? So if I go here, this is just an example, right, of the Oracle Machine Learning. So there is a way for you to, for example, this is importing a file that, as I was mentioning, was already pre-converted, coming from Hugging Face, pre-converted into ONNX format. And then with, a few lines of code here, you're importing that model, and it becomes a data mining model that is an in-database model, right? Available for you. Same thing I'm doing here with a multilingual model as well, right? So we're importing that model and bringing it in, okay? So that's just to give you an idea of what is, what is possible, right? There's a lot more things that you can do with these processes. I'm going to share with you guys in chat right now the link to the blog where you can learn about how to do this by yourselves, right? And well, I think that's it. So let's go to Q&A. I see some people raising their hands. If they can ask the question in the Q&A, please, it will be great. So Marty, Michelle, Keith, how are we with the questions? I see we have 47 answered questions. Any questions in particular you guys would like to answer?
And I'm just posting some YouTube links here. Yeah, there's been a lot of questions. It's great. So I think we've got them under control, Marcos. I think we got them under. I'm trying.
Excellent. All right, guys. So I'm sending you the last poll that we have just to catch, your feeling after the session today. So hopefully you guys learned a lot. And if you guys knew already a lot, but hopefully it was useful. So we're going to keep looking at questions. So if you guys continue typing any questions there, we're going to be looking at them. Again, the links. So I'm pushing the links again in chat. So the links are there. And so that's it. So final thoughts. Again, thank you, Marty. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us today and doing the excellent presentations. Guys, if you want to see the recording of this session, you want to see other sessions, all of them are going to be in that link there, okay, in that site, Learning Lounge. And excellent. Again, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to put some music just while we wait until all the questions are answered. But in the meantime, again, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you, Keith. Really appreciate it, guys.